Top 10 takes from a weekend with the Cowboys. Jaguars at Dallas at AT&T Stadium. Now we're back in Frisco, getting ready for the next shoe to drop. Mike Fisher reporting on the Dallas Cowboys for 105.3 The Fan, and of course for you as well. Let's do a top 10 countdown, shall we? Top 10 impressions from that game and more. Final score is insignificant, but it was 34-14. What was significant is that the Cowboys kind of threw their JV out there. The Jaguars had some varsity out there, certainly with the quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, although in some ways he's just a freshman. And that was the first noon Sunday preseason kickoff of the Jerry Jones era. And maybe that made it a little more sleepy, or maybe preseason games are just that way. Number 9. You know what you've got in Dak, even though not everybody seems to know it. I know what you've got in Dak, and if you hang out with us, you know what you've got in Dak. They now know what they have in Trevor Lawrence. And in talking to Cowboys people and more, the Peyton Manning comparisons and the Troy Aikman comparisons, wowzers. And they don't look wrong. That's really impressive. I'm still not a buyer when it comes to why Trevor Lawrence plays in that game, although that could be an extenuating circumstance. He's a rookie. Let's get him his reps. Let's get him his feet as wet as we can get him. But then Baltimore plays J.K. Dobbins, and look what happens. Number 8. Mike McCarthy has talked Super Bowl pretty openly. Now, he has kind of a clever way of saying it. He'll say this a lot. He'll say, if you're not aiming for the Super Bowl, what the hell are you doing in this profession? And that's a soft way of saying it. Plus, you throw a curse word in there so it doesn't sound soft. But DeMarcus Lawrence, talking on TV on the sideline during that game, said we need to complete the mission, get to the Super Bowl. That's the goal. And you wonder how much of it is this is just what guys are supposed to say, or if there really is that urgency permeating not only the locker room, but all the way upstairs to the Joneses' offices at the Star. Number 7. Greg Zuerlein, for the most part, hasn't kicked all summer, for the most part. He comes off PUP after the back surgery. He kicks in this game. He hits one long enough from 56 that it would have been good from 60, but it wasn't good because it was left. Is that good or bad? That no problem, he can kick it long. Problem, confidence-wise or whatever, you wish you would have made it. Speaking of the kicking game, Brian Broaddus of 105.3 The Fan, suggesting that Johnny Hekker, the Rams all-pro punter, might find himself available, and then if he does, he might find himself standing next to Bones Fossil sometime this week real soon here at the Star in Frisco. Number, wherever the heck we are, 6. Jerry's made it really clear about Dak. I've made it really clear about Dak. All you got to do is watch it, and you guys now have had a chance to see some of the practice stuff and some of the pregame stuff. He was throwing the ball 50 yards. So the one component that we brought up in this ramp up is that he hasn't thrown it deep. You know, part of me was like thinking, okay, but in warm-ups, does he throw 70-yard passes? Probably not. But he was throwing 50-yard passes on Friday. He turned it loose and was none the worse for it. Jerry said, MRIs, all good, all systems go. He's throwing with velocity, throwing with emphasis. When Dak plays against the Bucs on that Thursday, he'll have gone 333 days between real live football plays, and yet he will be okay. He might need a little help roster-wise, not with the top 2 running backs or the top 2 tight ends. Stephen Jones saying on 105.3 The Fan on Monday, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to see that those 2 backup spots, we need some help. But if your 2 problem spots on offense are 3rd-string running back and 3rd-string tight end, you're probably pretty good and deep on offense. Number 5. I do know and believe when coaches say that because we don't have training camp the way we used to, tackling is bad. We don't practice tackling anymore. So by and large, people aren't as good at tackling, period, as they were 10 or 20 years ago, and I'm sure that's true. Cowboys missed tackles, probably blew some assignments, and were blown out. I had a conversation with Barry Church, part of the Cowboys pregame show on 105.3 The Fan. And we talked about how he approached it when he was a starter but played. Because there was a time in his career, obviously, when he played in preseason, because he had to make the team. Then came a point where he was a starter and a near star, and every once in a while he'd still have to go out there and play. And he said it without saying it. You're just going out there trying to get through it. That's a bad way to play a pro football game. Let's just try to fake our way through these 5 plays because coach thinks we need to knock the rust off. Someday. The only bad thing that comes of this injury is Kelvin Joseph has a strained groin, but he says on Twitter that it's minor. We will monitor that. Number 4, is it okay if Nahshon Wright gets beat in a preseason game? Is it okay if Joseph has his ups and downs? Wright has his ups and downs, all while being tested by Trevor Lawrence. Keep in mind, neither of those guys are starters. Cowboys would have loved to have Kelvin Joseph become a starter. It just didn't happen. Anthony Brown outplayed him. And so that's a place. I mean, you got to play somebody. They're scheduling the game. You got to play somebody. I don't want to get Nahshon Wright hurt either. I don't want to get Kelvin Joseph hurt either. But I recognize that you got to draw some line somewhere. And I guess I draw it somewhere below J.K. Dobbins and somewhere above Nahshon Wright. No offense, Nahshon. So, camp completed. Camp in Oxnard completed. Camp in Canton completed. Camp in Phoenix completed. And now, officially, the camp in Frisco completed, and we move on. We don't get to call it, or have to call it, camp anymore. 40 days, basically, of training camp. We will have a Tuesday cut to 53, and of course some of the movements, and we'll keep you abreast of those, will happen before that. Then there'll be movements after that. Somebody in Houston told me they're going to cut to 53, and then again, they already got 45 new guys this offseason as part of their 90, and then they will completely reshuffle again after the 53. There's a certain number of guys, obviously, that even on that roster are safe, but there's a certain number of guys that aren't, and that shuffle will continue. Around here, they used to call it churning the bottom of the roster. I think that was a Jimmy thing, too. And the Cowboys, in addition to not rocket science trades, that could include, according to our own Jeffrey Kavanaugh, the defensive end, Brady and I, and the offensive tackle, Brandon Knight, that can be part of the churning. 3 things that we think we learned from the summer. Highlights, if you will. Micah, difference maker. As much as they wanted a cornerback, they stumbled into a beauty here. 2, Dak is fine. And I think we're going to have to get to Tampa, and Dak's going to have to get knocked down, and then we're all going to hold our breath. Then he's going to get up and play the next play and play the rest of the game, and then we can let our breath out and be fine. And then we don't have to hear about it anymore. And then number 3, that drone thing on Hard Knocks. Those are the 3 highlights of the summer. Item number 2, what if you never win a game? We talk about culture, and we talk about momentum, and we talk about confidence. What if you go through a preseason like the Cowboys just did and you don't win a game? Does it negatively impact your confidence? It's tricky, isn't it? Momentum. How do you package it? What is it? Confidence. How do you package it? What is it? The Cowboys come away from that thing 0-4, and yet, as near as I can tell, the coaches didn't come out of that at all going, oh man, we don't have any confidence now. Oh no, we don't have any momentum. I think that you only talk about the confidence and the momentum after you win a preseason game. And after you lose a preseason game, you realize, or you convince yourself how insignificant it is. Cowboys 0-4 in 2018, but 2018 was the last time they won a playoff game and won the division. Cowboys were winless for the third time since 2014. In some of the other times they've been winless, they won 10 games and 12 games. In fact, I think some of that time is when Romo and Dak had playoff success. And we can go back, of course, to Jimmy and Jerry celebrating. Was it at New Orleans? Their first win ever. And they acted like they just won the Super Bowl, maybe not realizing, boys, you're going 1-15. And that win doesn't even count as the one. The Ravens have won 20 consecutive games, as everybody's making a big deal of, which is cool in the preseason. During that same span, how many playoff games has the Ravens won? And we have this idea that the Ravens are this great program. They've won 20 straight preseason games, a stretch during which they've won one playoff game. Meh. The Lions in 2008 went 4-0, and you know what they did the rest of the year? They went 0-16 under our old friend, Rod Marinelli. And then the number one issue. And this was kind of the purpose of this game as much as anything. If you really agree with me that the backup quarterback is the 12th starter, then this was about Cooper Rush versus Garrett Gilbert. And I still can't explain how one got elevated over the other, and then the other got elevated over him, and now the other one's elevated, and now on this Monday, the Cowboys are talking about good things about Garrett Gilbert again. And there have been no good things. Not really. John Madden used to say, if you have two quarterbacks, you have none. If you have two backup quarterbacks, you have less than none. I wonder if the real backup quarterback's even on this roster. Similar results, similar stats, similar production, similar blah out of both of them. McCarthy had said that Cooper had earned the right to have a look. He got a look and no. Garrett Gilbert got a look. Cooper Rush was 4 of 8 for 16 yards. That's a bad look. Gilbert looked bad against Houston, but had a touchdown throw here. So all of a sudden, everything changes? And then in the second half, they give it all to Ben DiNucci. Why? Because the quarterback battle of the other two guys who actually matter has been decided? Maybe none of it's been decided at all. And maybe that's another rocket science item for Stephen Jones to consider. Thank you for subscribing here. Thank you for listening to us on 105.3 The Fan. Fish out.